What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Well, I am so glad to be here and to meet you in person, Kevin. And my name is Erika Osmond Mason. I live in northern Colorado in a place called Fort Collins, which is about an hour north of Denver. And I channel people's Akashic records for them. In addition, I've been channeling something called the Spirit of Love, which has been teaching me much more about soul love. And I've been working on a book on that. But I see people in person in Fort Collins, where I do work on pain relief. I'm an occupational therapist, but also work on things with people's energy systems, chakras, and in their Akashic records. And then I do Akashic record readings over Zoom for people all over the world.
Wonderful. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you on. Yeah, no, this is one of those interviews that I get a lot of. I've got a stack like that right now. No joke, right? Of interviews, not just for the channeling docuseries, mainly just for my old show as well, which I'll be launching back again soon, the More Show. And when I first came across you, I thought, oh, this is just past lives, and which is all fascinating. But then obviously this is channeled, which I think just makes it even more exciting, to be honest, as well. I've come across a number of different past life channelers on this show, but I've got a feeling this is very different the way that you're doing this as well. And as you mentioned, the Spirit of Love, which we'll get into. Let's begin with your journey. I think that's important as well. So you've got a normal practice, which in that practice you do?
Hands-on manual therapy, lots of different kinds of things, matrix repatterning, craniosacral therapy, Reiki, chakra work. I teach people about ergonomics and positioning and different things that lead to pain. I actually do pelvic floor work as well for people who have pain there. And then a lot of times I bring in this Akashic record stuff and find things that I wouldn't find otherwise.
Right, absolutely. So is that where it started off for you in a sense? Was this sort of work, right? How did this spiritual side, this channeling side, come into your work as well? What was the development and course of your life for that in a sense?
Yeah. So growing up, I mean, I was the kid who was doing rune readings in the corner and, interested in learning about world religions and things like that, and was definitely exploring all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't until I started to, in college, I started to have visions, and started to, like, for example, I was in a music therapy class one day and I looked over and was like, oh, there's an angel. And it was about this big and it was golden. And I started to draw it and I looked away and expected it to be gone. It was still there, and hung out with that. And just so interesting things started to happen. And when I learned craniosacral therapy and started doing body work, I would often see visions of things that had happened in their lives or get information. But it wasn't until just a couple of years ago when I took Lisa Barnett's her training for Akashic Wisdom School of Knowing that I could turn on the channeling on demand.
How did you come across Lisa Barnett then?
On a different show, actually. I just was, one of those synchronicity things where I was led to it, and I was like, that's what I've been looking for. And that was also at a time where I had broken a rib, broken my toe, broken my thumb within a course of a couple months, kept getting sick. And it was like something was telling me to have some quiet time. And I finally did.
Right. Okay. And that's when you came across Lisa Barnett. Actually thinking about it, I don't know why, that name does ring a bell for some reason. So
she has written several books on the Akashic
that's
records.
Probably
and that book that I showed you, where I'm going to have a story in Akasha, she's the headline author on that.
Okay, so I've seen it there as well.
But,
okay,
yeah.
I'm not going completely mad, but yeah, I think I've maybe seen her on Amazon. When I've looked for guests, maybe it does seem a name that's a little bit familiar now. Thinking about it, so okay, you've always had that sense. What do you think that sense of seeing things is? How would you sort of, I want to say pocket it, but how would you put it in a box in a sense?
Gosh, I'm so open to so many different things. I had an experience when I was in my 20s. I promise I'll come back around to your question. I went to Zimbabwe. I had been learning their music. It was just spoke to me so much. I have these dreams of learning with shaman, and I finally was like, okay, I'll go. And when I went, I got to work with these shaman, and they did this ceremony to help connect me to my ancestors, because they were like, you people from Europe, you're clueless, and especially in America, you have no idea where you're from. And, to us, our connection to our ancestors is everything. And their music helped them. They would have spirit mediums that got possessed by healing spirits. And it was a fascinating, different space to be in. So when I was there, I saw these, and I did the ritual. I had these images, like two X's. I can't make that, but side by side, it was in front of my eyes. Like I had a pair of glasses on fire for like days. And then another one came and another one came. And now I know that those are light codes, but this was 20 years ago. So what is that thing? There's a lot of different things out there. There are a lot of wonderful divine expressions that are willing to talk to us when we're willing to and open to listen.
Was this always there when you were younger, do you think? Did you have a knowing about events, people, senses of things to come?
I think it started for me when I would paint a lot when I was in high school. My dad was an artist, and I started to do abstract paintings, and goddesses or light codes or these different images would come through and be like, huh, what's that? But it feels really good to be interacting with this energy. So that's how that turned on for me.
So I believe that you started this journey that you've been on with the channeling the Akashic records just for the past few years or less, right?
Yeah.
Now, there was obviously something that pushed you to do this. Now, obviously, I know that your brother passed as well, and we can talk about that just very briefly. Was that a catalyst as well, your brother's passing, which was unexpected, I believe?
It was. I started the class about a year before he passed. There were, like a lot of us, a lot of difficult things pushed me to getting stronger, to making my connection with the divine in some ways stronger. So right at that point, 2020, I was working in an assisted living facility as an occupational therapist. There was a lot of fear about people dying of COVID. There were a lot of medically fragile people, and no one, myself really included, did not want to be that person who brought COVID in to potentially kill people. So there was that stress. I was newly married and with 3 stepdaughters with 2 different moms, and there was that stress.
Of course.
There's a lot of rambunctious teenage energy in the house and not a lot of alone time. And we were busy a lot. And so I noticed I was injuring myself a lot and getting sick a lot just to find a quiet time to be alone. And when I did that then and finally listened, I found this and was like, this is what you need. This is the next thing for your work, for your life. And to go back to your question about my brother, I know that was really important to have that in place before I lost my brother and my only sibling and my mom, who was a soul friend all my life. So that really helped.
Yeah, that's very difficult. So that was also very quickly. I mean, I bet it all feels like yesterday. So by doing this work then, I'm guessing it helped you make sense maybe of where they had transitioned to.
It did. It made me sense. I mean, I always, for many, many years, I believed in past and future lives. I believed in lots of different possibilities, but it made it really personal when it was someone that I cared about so much. And my brother left in not the way that he probably would have preferred to. There was a lot left undone. It was pretty messy. And it helped me to make sense of that. I was just bereft about his 2 teenage daughters, and but beginning to take it from a larger perspective of we are these souls that just continue to want to learn and grow and experience things, and everything takes us back to source again. Some of us have longer paths than others, but it's all part of the learning. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that had to be an experience you had. And I'm sure everything happens for a reason. And if anything,
it's hard to believe that in the moment.
Well, it is.
It
so is. Well, there's some sayings, aren't there? There are no mistakes, just experiences. Well, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking maybe it really made you center into this work. That's the feeling I get.
It did. And I have a story in this book that I told you about coming out in August, called Akasha, about how I found peace with my mom and brother. And a big part of that was, I don't know if you or anyone listening has experienced this, but it's like I had this tether that was just blowing in the wind that wasn't connected to them anymore. And I was like, what do I do with that? Do I look for them? Am I supposed to? Do I draw that back in? Like, how can we stay connected? And I wanted to. And so my record keepers, you're not supposed to, forbidden to open other people's records who don't give you permission, which includes people who cross over. But my record keepers did show me a way to connect with people's higher selves. And then I started to hear them talk to me. And then I started to understand where they were and what they were doing. And it just brought me so much peace. And since then, I have done that work with other people, and it's been really beautiful.
That's incredible. Well, you know, that rule probably was made by a human being. So is it really
from my yeah
a
yeah
rule that yeah? I mean,
well, from the school that I learned from, and so
yeah.
I found my workaround.
Good. Yeah. And they were your family members, do you know what I mean, as well?
Yeah.
So yeah, break that rule. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So when you went on the journey then of doing the course, where did the channeling come in?
I mean, people use different words, channeling or not channeling with the Akashic records, but it did come in pretty quickly. The first couple of classes are just working for yourself and in your own records and listening to what they have to say. And then we work into working with other people. And so through that, I hear what other people's record keepers have to say, or they show me images. So I haven't... before that, though, this spirit of love that when I got divorced about 10 years ago, and was picking apart what went wrong here. Oh my God, I feel like such a failure. And I did start feeling this collective of beings who wanted. Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah, well, I've been through divorce as well. I know what that feels like.
Yeah, all those feelings. So I did feel this group who was talking to me and has written this book and this work that I do in people's Akashic records about the connecting at each chakra level and looking for harmony there, and which is their definition of soul love. So started that kind of channeling about 10 years ago.
And how does it work for you then? So just give us a brief understanding. So you're in a session with a client. Yeah. I guess they've got certain questions they want to ask, right? How does a session work?
It is always based on people's questions. And so there's particular prayers that we use and say people's full names to open their records, and then we close afterwards. And then anything that happens in between is always a wild and fun ride.
So how's it work for you then? So what, you just switch into a channeled mode? I mean, so you're verbally giving this information to the client, or clients?
Yeah, I am verbally giving it to them. Sometimes I'm seeing images, sometimes I'm hearing things, sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes it's a feeling, like I'll get a feeling in my own body, like, oh, do you have anything going on in your heart? It's
So then, does the voice change? How do you sort of get into that modality?
Yeah, I'm not a physical channeler. I'm still present during the process. And I do have to sometimes say, like, hold on, let me make sure this isn't my own thought about this. Let me just touch base. Because I do believe that my experience of this is that different record keepers and different part of the records, like they choose different people for different messages. Like I do have a medical background. I do have certain things that I know about. So, my friend Francesca, who you've interviewed before, Toman, like she with Tesla, she's got this incredible scientific mind. Not so much. So I don't tend to hear things like that. So I do believe that they use our brains and what we know as well. Too.
That is so true. I've seen that time and time again, right? So you're very conscious. You've done the sort of prayer ceremony before you start to, bring in the information. That's in a sense your shield, or your. Is that a bit like your discernment barrier as well, by having that prayer there?
Oh yeah, that opens up the process, and I'm there physically with the person or over Zoom. Zoom feels like physically these days, but yeah, that is really it. I do have other prayers that I do to say who I do and don't allow into my space, just as a general practice. But
interesting. Okay, And I bet some interesting information has come through in those sessions that was very
Yeah.
personal, or maybe vibrated in a way, or maybe was received, that's probably the better word, received in a way that it really meant something to the person on the other end of that information.
Yeah, I've got different examples. We were just talking about people who've passed over. I saw someone recently in person, and she said she was really depressed. She'd been struggling with motivation just to get out of the bed in the morning. And she'd lost about 8 or 9 people over a decade. And she was a middle-aged woman, not even an older person. And so we asked if we could connect with some of these beings who had crossed over. And several of them, I saw images of them. I told them, I invited her to be part of the experience as well. And so she heard some things also. But there were some really beautiful messages that brought her a lot of peace about how a particular person was handling money now. And they also explained and beamed back all of this light to her that part of her heart really had gone with them, and which was why she had been feeling so depressed. And they sent it back to her. And probably for 20 minutes, we were both like, wow, you still feel it? Yeah, I still feel it. It was just, it's like the room just turned up several shades of light. It was so beautiful. And the woman who got off that table was so different than the one who laid down. It was really fun.
When you're doing these sessions, then you talk about channeling the spirit of love. That's the name that they gave, you gave?
That they gave. I really hadn't asked until I was preparing for this interview. I was like, who are you all anyway? And that's the name that they gave me the other day.
Yeah. Do you think it's really yourself, or do you think it's an aspect of you, or?
I do believe that I am part of this group, that, my higher self. I believe I'm just the one who's down here on earth. I believe it is part of my soul purpose to bring this information through. And, but I know it's not just me.
Yeah.
And, they have a really great sense of humor because they decided to teach me through a lot of living and learning experiences.
Right. I bet. Yeah. Well, there's no escape from that, is there, when you do the work,
No.
for sure.
Yeah.
So on this journey, obviously you're learning a lot of different things. Let's just go down to some of the basic stuff, which I've asked in previous interviews, but I think it's important for those maybe first time watching this. Soul's purpose. What would you say from what you've done so far is the soul's purpose?
Oh, that's such a good question, because it really varies from person to person. Some people, like I mentioned, one of my soul purposes is to learn about love and about soul love, and to share that information with others. Sometimes I find, sorry, I'm going to back up. Early on, I heard that I got this really wonderful, terrible memory of being beheaded for being a spiritual leader kind of thing. And had several of those great memories. And one of the things that I heard was, you are here to be whole, to remember that you're whole and you are loved. And so a piece of that also is just to realize, like, I am loved, like I belong here. Nature loves me, people, random strangers, it's not like I want them to fall in love with me, but I can love life and life can love me back. And so that was one of my soul purposes that I'm still working on. Oftentimes when I'm working with people, I will get specific things, and it tends to be more blanket things like that, at least the information that I receive. Like, it is for your soul to know what this really feels like, to really, like, you get it on intellectual, for you to really know it in your body. Other times it's more specific, like, you do need to make this thing happen that you keep talking about. So it really does vary from time to time, and from chapter to chapter. A lot of times people don't know what their next chapter is. I'll mention there's another guy I worked with who, he's in his 70s. He felt like he just didn't really have much left. He was feeling pretty like, why am I here? I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not really enjoying life. And his record keepers started teaching him how to make these portals of bringing through fifth dimensional energy at different sacred sites and with trees, and to amp up the energy on the earth. And he just texted me the other day. He's like, "Thank you for helping me fall in love with life again." So different soul purposes they're so individual.
Oh, they are. They are. And it's so easy to compare and judge, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much to that we can unpack, but I know that's a show on its own, right? But yes, that's a very good point. The Akashic records. How would you define the Akashic records with doing the work and the way that you do it?
There's so many different rooms, so to speak. Not that they're physical rooms, but there's so many different vibrational levels and areas of interest in that. And what I'm sure this will continue to evolve, but the things that I tend to bring information through are about this, love and relationship issues, helping people to get clearer about what they really want in a relationship, and shift limiting beliefs around that. Helping people to just, I'm really good at hearing what people's limiting beliefs are in general and where they're storing them. Connecting with people who have crossed over with their higher selves. And one other fun thing that's been happening lately is pregnant women. I've been hearing the soul of their babies talking and giving information, and that's been really, really fun.
That's incredible. Okay. There's a few things we're going to come back to with what you've just said as well.
Sure.
What services do you offer then, just very briefly? And your website is?
LightFilledLife.com is my website. And so over Zoom, I offer an hour-long Akashic record coaching or consultation. And then in person, a lot of other stuff.
Okay, and that's all on the website as well.
Yes.
I guess I should have asked as well at the very beginning is what makes your work different to others? And I'll just add as well, obviously, the person that's getting the reading is not having to be put under hypnosis. I suppose that's a big thing. But please, let the audience know.
Well, like I was just saying, those areas that I like to focus on make me a little bit different. Also, something that's very personally important to me is that it's a co-creative experience. We have all these choices, and I'm like, I'm always trying to bring people into their own expansive psychic abilities. Like, hey, do you feel this thing that's happening right now? Can you tune into that? Can you feel this your ancestor in the room? Can you this is what they're saying. How do you feel about that? Because you have a choice in what you do. So like with potential soul partners, they will bring in information, say, this is someone that you may resonate with, but these are some pitfalls I'd like to show you as well. And what do you think about that? So I really try to be co-creative rather than being, and empower the people I'm working with rather than say, like, this is what you need to do, because that's not the kind of person I want to be.
Now, we talked a little bit off air before we did this interview, just very, very briefly. And this is your first interview, so you're doing great.
Thanks.
Now, relationships is a big one. And I'm guessing many have seen yourself and sought questions through the Akashic records on their partners. And I think it was something that you mentioned as well, like, for example, the sex is great, right?
Right.
But there's something missing, or maybe a way someone feels about someone, in the bigger picture.
Yes. So this is this idea of soul love that, so many of us have fallen into, every once in a while someone gets lucky and they meet someone really young and that's their person, and like, yay for you guys, those few of you out there. But most of us, we have this process of meeting someone and like the sex is great, or you're just like, oh, we just really get each other, or we can talk for hours, or there are these different things, or we like doing the same things. But often in those situations, whether you see it right away or not, there are missing pieces, or there's areas where there's some pretty big conflict, and there's a difficult, it's hard to look around that. And some people make the mistake, I have definitely made the mistake of thinking that'll change. Not usually. Not usually. It can. I mean, anything can happen if people really come together and want to work on it together. But the information that I've been given is to look at, and I have examples of all of these if you're interested, at how people can connect at these different chakra levels. And I have exercises that I can do.
So what you're about to explain now, when it comes to the chakra levels, this is what you would explain to clients if they're going through something similar, in a sense. But do you open the Akashic records as well on that relationship?
I do. Well, I do for the person who came.
Well, that's what I mean. Yes. Oh, okay. So, not the other partner, but for the person.
Yeah. Right. And so we can ask questions about the person who came to me, like their relationship to them. We can't necessarily know what that other person's motivations are, things like that.
But that must normally come through in some respect.
Occasionally there is some, the record keepers will give a little bit of just background story just to build some compassion or empathy.
Okay. So let's just go to that chakra work as well.
Okay, cool. So just to give a few examples, there's lots more. Home is a big thing in the first chakra where people can connect. And there's an exercise that I'll do with people to feel how is that energy flowing between them at the first chakra, and then we'll look at specific things. At home, it sounds like such a no big deal. But if home doesn't work, obviously this isn't a partnership where people are wanting to live together. It's the foundation. It's the bottom of your chakra system. It's the foundation of your life. And everything else can topple if that doesn't work out. And I, for some reason, manifested some really extreme situations in that regard with someone who wanted to, be extremely environmental conscious, and good on him. But there was I was wearing 4 layers of clothes and hats and, all these things in the name of, and I just wanted a little comfort. And that was just something we couldn't quite get on the same page about. I can laugh about it now. There's another instance where I would realize I'd clean off a surface and it'd be like, oh, I could breathe. There's just a little bit of space. And then within an hour, my boyfriend came back and it's like, oh, a blank canvas. And he just put crap everywhere. And realized over time, that drove me crazy. So there are little things can become big things unless you can talk about it and work it out together. So home can be a big one. Obviously, people sometimes want to live in different cities and countries or things like that. Another thing at the first chakra level is money. And people can have vastly different ideas about what are priorities for spending or how to save or what is important with money and what they want. And that can be a big one there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially if they, want to be kept, or they the abuse of money as well, I guess. So many different levels. Do you know what I mean?
Many different levels. In my upcoming book, I have lots and lots of details about that. Yeah. So I have one example, at the first chakra level of family can also be there. And this gal, she was heartbroken, devastated that her boyfriend broke up with her. And she so desperately wanted to have a family. She loved his kids. She just saw it all happening, and he broke up with her. And she was devastated, just absolutely destroyed. And so her record keepers wanted to show her, they only really connected in 3 different levels of the 7, and showed her okay, if you had been together, this would have unraveled, you would have felt really dissatisfied and not very long. So it helps her to realize like so many people can get so fixated on this is the person, to realize there's so much more for you out there.
Yeah, but sometimes we jump into marriage, and some people seem to make that work, and sometimes it doesn't work, right?
Sometimes it doesn't work.
So there has to be an even keel. There has to be a bit of ebb and flow with each other, doesn't there, to sort of balance out what you both want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was just a instance where, she had no chance to work it out with him because he had
for
broken
sure
up
in
with
that
her.
situation. Yeah. Did she contact you ever again to say, look, I've found happiness, I'm in a better place? And
we worked together about 3 times when she was working through the deepest part of her heartache, and then I heard that someone was coming, and I haven't heard from her since. So
okay, happy customer. Good. So let's go to these 7 points, 7 chakras.
Okay.
How it relates to the work. Yeah.
Second chakra.
So the first one is
first chakra. We talked about home and
okay,
money.
That's the first one. Okay.
There's more stuff, but those are the things and just examples I wanted to share.
So home and money. Home in the sense that you both get on in the same space.
Yeah,
money that
you want similar things, that you can make your values work together.
Right.
Is there harmony or disharmony, and how can you find harmony?
Right. And then with the money. Yeah, with the money, I suppose.
And sometimes you can't.
No, sometimes you can't. No.
Yeah.
But with the money, then, whether you mentioned some points there, I guess. What would you find as a balance when it comes to money, though?
So, with any of these things, finding a balance it doesn't have to be the same. Just, can you agree to disagree? Can you respect each other? Can you appreciate each other's differences and find a way to work together? With any of those things, it's possible. So we'll focus on sex and intimacy with the second chakra, because that's a juicy one. That's another thing where, there can be great connection, or there can be connection. And so that's an important thing to people. Another way to think about that is that when, especially for women, sometimes, like when we're not feeling heard, or when we're not feeling like our heart is feeling appreciated or something, what has been like a really hot, passionate chemistry thing can shut down. And so sex can be a byproduct of how you're connecting in all these other levels. But often, people don't necessarily want the same things. And so that is a good thing to bring out. Another one is creativity. Do you spark the other person's creativity? It doesn't have to be art or music, but just being creative in your work, being creative with finances, being creative in your life. Do you spark that in each other? One example I have here is of a woman. She had grown kids, and she came to me and she's like, I have no intimacy with my husband. It's just, he's gone. And the record keepers told us that he gave some strategies to her to try, but she said, he's not probably going to change. He was in his 70s. He was pretty set in his way. But they said, really what you're wanting to charge up this chakra is to bring more creativity into your work right now. And they gave her some ideas, and she's like, you're right. So sometimes it's like same charging station, different thing charges up that chakra. And she decided she really didn't want to leave her relationship for a lot of reasons. So she channeled that energy into her creativity. Am I talking too much, too little? Am I doing okay? Okay. So third chakra is a fun one. So that's our personal power. Again, so many more things I could say about all of these, but this is a big one where I'm sure you've known people who pick at each other all the time and bicker and banter. And it can seem sort of sexy and fun for a while, but it starts to get mean after a while and can really escalate.
Become abusive, can't it?
It can become abusive, and it often doesn't start out that way, but it can really go there. And that is when people they're really having power dynamics. So sometimes people want this duality, sort of like I'm more in charge kind of thing, and I'm more passive, which maybe works for people sometimes, but it can be incredibly beautiful when people both want each other to be the best people they can be, and they support each other in being and living in their power. So that's a great one too.
So important, isn't it? Yeah, there's that dynamic is not always there, is it? That is true. But that's what I would want. I would want both to be in their power.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole different experience for sure. Yeah, I know a personal example of some people who that happened, and then it ended up in a real physical fight over a couple of years, and they almost ended their marriage over it. But they were able to finally kind of stop that dynamic and begin to support each other. Another thing that can happen with that is that, especially, like wonderful moms who have taken care of their kids and put their kids first all their lives, not to say the dads don't do that too, but more typically moms, their kids go out of the house and they're like, oh my God, my family has been my passion. I don't have a passion. And they try to make their marriage or their kids their passion, and that's can cause trouble because big boundaries can be created, and we need to bring passion to our relationships, our own passion to our relationships, rather than suck it all out of our relationships. All right, so fourth chakra, obviously about love. Most people are better at giving love or receiving love, so there's always things to learn there. And loving life, like being happy, and like, can you smile because you saw a cute little dog walking by, or like a little kid smiled, or just that spirit of loving life is really powerful. And work with people who one partner just always sees the life with shit colored glasses, and the other person is always trying to lift them up, and that gets exhausting after a while. So I wanted to talk here about, if you think this is interesting, that I found that longing is not the same as soul love. Longing can be like, sometimes, usually it's a person who's more awake than the other, and they remember like, oh, I know you, there's this just like gravity, the intense feeling, and they think, oh, that must be my soulmate, that must be it. And sometimes it is, but often longing is created when the other person isn't ready, or they've made a different choice, or it can be because that other person represents something we want to be in ourselves too. But that heavy feeling of like, of remembering or familiarity doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good vibrational match in this time. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I'm just going to shut up and let you talk. Don't worry. Keep going.
All right. Just a few more chakras. Thank you, and you all, for listening. So, fifth chakra is about communication, lots of other stuff too, but listening and speaking often, again, we're really good at one or the other. And do we have a communication style that works with our person? One person could come from a family where, you like just yell it all out and you get it out there and you get to the bottom of it no matter what. And another person might come from a family where you just don't deal with emotions and you go and work them out on your own. You come back and talk a few days later. Obviously that can be difficult, not impossible, but difficult. And then there's also dynamics in relationships where people don't want to hear. They really don't want to listen to what the person has to say, or they're not in a place where they can hear it. So finding someone when you're looking for someone, or working on those communication skills are vital. Sixth chakra is again, several things, but intellectual communication or connection is a big one. Like, do you intellectually stimulate your person? Do you have a connection there? That can be so important. And it might not seem important in the beginning, but over time, that can kind of be boring when you don't feel intellectually stimulated by your partner. Psychic senses are all in this area too. And that is another area where you can have connection or disconnection if one person is not open to that or doesn't care, thinks you're full of hooey or whatever. And then spiritual connection, again, it doesn't have to be the same, but is there harmony? My husband is not, I call him a duster. Like, he believes that when we die, we become dust. And I like to jab him about it from time to time, but he's so open to all my stuff. And he's just a really, really good person. He has great values and is a kind, good person. And so that works for us. Someday I sort of wish maybe he would open up to some other things, but that may or may not happen. He's never judged me for who I am and loves me for who I am. So
that's important.
Yeah.
I think that's all that matters. I think that resonates into a lot of the points that you just mentioned as well.
Yeah. Loving someone for who they are and wanting to help them be that more and more every day.
I think it's difficult when it's abusive. Because when you're in the middle of an abusive relationship, physically, mentally, you want to, on reflection, you wish you had loved them for who they were.
Oh, yeah.
But in the midst of crazy nutcasiness, it's very difficult to even see that perspective, and it takes time to reflect back on that. But if wishes could be kisses, you know, again, I'm going to get into something soon, which is karma. I think karmically, some things are not meant to be.
Yeah.
It's only meant to be short-lived because you're working out whatever you didn't work out before, and it doesn't need to be that long.
Sure. Sure, absolutely. Sometimes I completely agree that relationship contracts that we have, or potential relationship contracts, can be really brief. Like, oh, I got what I need. Thank you so much. You know, I wish you well on your way. But we can, you know, through abusiveness, through really tough stuff, we can learn a lot.
Well, a lot of that happened over COVID, didn't it? A lot of abusive relationships came to an end.
Yeah, which is a blessing, which we want to think is a blessing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's nothing worse. And it's not always the man.
Oh, no. I've known a lot of very, very intense females who, you know, the need to be right is a dangerous thing.
The need for taking certain medication can cause dangerous side effects as well.
Yeah.
I just want to mention a couple of things here as well. I think you've mentioned most of the points there. Before bringing a complete downer on all this, right? I mean, these are important subjects. These happen. This is life.
That's right.
This stuff's not going to go away. This is human beings interacting, and also karmic patterns coming through, and all sorts of stuff that will continue to come through, which is a shame for those suffering from such situations. Now, and that's not taking responsibility away from anyone. I'm just saying for the bigger picture. When when you're in the trees, you can't see the woods, can you? So when it comes to friendship, I think some of your points touched upon that. Really, that having a strong friendship with the person you're with, especially from a male perspective of saying it, right? I don't know if I ever saw it as that important before, but I do see it as important now. That's something I really want, actually.
Yeah. You can have soul. This applies to really any relationship, but you can't pick your family as much like you can pick your friends. And absolutely, it applies to all that. Like, is this someone I want to let into my life if I can't really trust them, or if we can look through 4 different things in friendships than we can in partnerships, we tend to want it all in partnerships a lot of times, but in friendships, you can be like, I want the buddies that I can go out and, watch a game with, or I want the buddies where I can really like talk about what's deep and meaningful to us. And
I meant with the partner as well. That
yeah.
almost, yes, but you mean the same, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
you
what
mean
I mean.
friendships.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Pardon me.
Yeah, mm-hmm, yeah. You'd think there was. You think if two people are going to come together, get married, you're sort of besties, but it's not always the way it works.
Yeah, no, it depends really of what people want. It really depends, I think.
Or maybe
on what
that's more of a
want.
conscious way of looking at it.
I find this soul level, kind of when you connect all these levels, you can't help but not be friends.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a great answer. Yeah. Yeah. What about, obviously, look, none of us are the same people as we get older physically.
Right.
But what about mental health issues as well as we get older with our partners when it comes to karmic ties with people, that, the other partner's mental health is degrading, whether they've gone through major depression that has sort of shown its head more in the relationship as the years have gone on, or there's other mental degradation as well. Have you come across that with clients that you've seen?
I have, yeah. Both with clients and on a personal level with my mom, who had early onset dementia.
Oh, and, that's terrible.
She, I'll just tell that story since I started it. My dad, who will probably be watching this, and who I love you, he was a little bit of a shit when I was younger.
We love you, Dad. Don't worry.
We love you, Dad. And he grew up with a very patriarchal, kind of dad who never told him he loved him, or never really gave my dad any kind of kind words.
That's quite common. Yeah.
Yeah, it very much is. And my mom felt like my dad sort of bulldozed her with his big exuberance, and a lot of times, and there was a lot of waking up in their relationship. There was a lot of waking up to, like, pay attention to what I'm saying, listen to my feelings, and he just has changed so much over all their work that they've done together. And it was so beautiful, Kevin, to watch. I mean, my mom stopped walking last December, and he kept her in his home with hospice care. She was bedridden for 5 months. She stopped being able to move her arms, to talk, to use her legs. So he changed her, every day. He fed her. He did everything for her. When I was, I helped too, but he was the one who was in it. And he just kept on saying, like, she took care of me and she supported me all these years. It's the least I could do. And being someone who's worked in dementia care units in the past, and, I've seen people who are just kind of like chuck their person off and they're out of there. And, understandably too, it's just an awful, horrible thing to go through. But, so my point in that is that their love really did come to this beautiful full circle kind of thing. They both cared for each other. There was complete peace. Like, they may find each other again, but they're really were at peace with each other. And
and do you feel that was karmic for Dad and Mum to go through that experience? It was like some things are destined. It's so easy for me to say that, isn't it? Because for some others, they may not feel that way. But I mean, we're just looking at it from this spiritual perspective, maybe, that there's a bigger learning lesson that's going on for people going through that's so personal in a sense, because obviously there's different contracts going on. But could it be if you were to speak to the record keepers for that, what do you think would be some of their advice on situations like that?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard for me to know about my parents. I'm still unpacking that, but
in general,
but there's another example that I'm thinking of where this man came and he's reading all the books, and he's just really excited about his spiritual knowledge and growth, and his wife is starting to show some decline, and she's never really been interested in going there with him. And he said, I have this memory of having a harem at one point, and he's like, I really think that this is some of my karma having to take care of her. Like for and I was like, and I asked him, I was like, yep. And in that also, not just karma, but it was an opportunity for him to learn selflessness in a different way, to learn that kind of giving love. And that was something that his soul was wanting to learn in this life. And he agreed.
Yes, absolutely. And I think our parents do the best job they can. And, at the time that was the best. And I think you would agree there's no judgment there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no, with my parents, no. I mean, I not to say that I didn't have to go through some stuff with that, but they're I have to say they're pretty amazing people.
Mm. And do you think we choose our parents?
I do. I absolutely do. Yeah, that's been some fun work as I've been talking to souls of babies and stuff too. Yeah, to pick out particular, we have a soul intentions, or many of them, for our life, and so we pick ancestral lineages that bring about some of those traits and those talents and those belief systems, usually really similar to ones to what we want to learn, or the exact opposites, because both can be teaching tools. Yeah, how about you?
Oh, I think so. Most definitely. Yes, I think so. And I just want to say to you as well, I'm sure your dad's very proud of you to see you come into your own power, and to be doing something that's helping so many, yet you're enjoying it so much as well. And you're at the very beginning stage of this work, which is always interesting to see where that's going to take you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's so much to learn, and to keep grounded as well. That's an important part of this, because there's so much information that can come through sometimes, that, it's important to, we're here to have this experience, and no matter what information is coming through about the other side, being here is so important. Experiencing having this life. Yeah.
It absolutely is. There was a long time when I was younger where I just kept looking for that portal that would take me out to where I was from.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yep.
But I'm really happy, and been working on that for a long time, and I'm really happy to be here.
It's like writing an angry letter to God, and it just goes in the waste paper bin, doesn't it? So yeah, absolutely. So we've touched on karma there as well. Just very briefly, what is karma to you with the work that you've been doing? Yes, you've mentioned it a number of times, but just for the audience, for your own perspective.
Yeah, from my perspective and how I'm learning and seeing it right now, because we're always learning more, right? Karma is, I used to think of it as sort of, I wanted to say some bad words, but
say them, it's fine. It's okay. But, well, maybe not. Like let's, if
yeah, I was going to say the B word, but
it's all good. Don't worry.
Well, I'll just say, kind of getting slapped down by life, or slapped down by God, or something. And how I feel and see, and what they tell me about it now, is it's more like it's oftentimes when people will come and they'll say, why am I having this terrible experience? Why am I going through this? And they'll show me some past lives where they were the bad guy, or they were the one who was doing things, the perpetrator, and they're experiencing the opposite. And through experiencing that whole gamut of things, often we build the empathy, we build the compassion, and then we move on, and then usually we want to help other people with that as we're moving on, because we have a lot of passion about it. It's just, karma can sometimes be finishing experiences that feel unfinished, that our soul still yearns for. But it's not so much like being punished as it is just learning, expanding, and growing. And
yeah. So for those that have had loved ones like yourself that have crossed over, and we're doing this work as well.
Yeah.
I want to almost ask, where do you think we go? But it's almost like there's different planes of existence by the sound of it. Like there's different levels, there's infinite levels to go to. The soul is progressing, yet it can come back to have another reincarnation as well. at the right time, I guess?
So such a fascinating question. And again, just from where I'm at and what I've been learning and hearing from the record keepers, that's oftentimes we have an experience, especially if we're still attached to people here on this earth plane, to give Earth as an example. We have the option to hang out in the angelic realm for a while. Sometimes we need a chaperone, depending on how well we're able to connect with our source self again. Sometimes there's a lot of soul kind of cleaning and clearing that needs to happen for a while. But when we can hang out and be guardian angels or be, care for the people that are still here. Sometimes, so that's one option. I know I've done that a number of times. I really resonate with that. And I think that's been easier for me than being in this body, but I'm learning.
Well, life is tough, isn't it? Yes, that's right.
But then there's like my grandmother was she was just like an I Love Lucy, like just really magnetic, beautiful woman and full of life and comedy. And she had a lot of pain from losing her dad in a streetcar accident when she was 13, and these terrible things that happened in her life. And she ended her life kind of being kind of needy, and because she just had there was just some sadness there. And right away my mom and I both sensed like, wow, she's on a mission. Like she dropped all of that and she's with this committee doing all this different stuff. And we don't know exactly, but she's like, she'd come to say hi, but then she's like, I'm busy, guys. So there's just, I keep learning more from little stories, but there's so much to it, isn't there? So many possibilities.
There is so much to it. And I guess your focus is always really on the client when you're doing this, right? But obviously you are growing as each client comes along. So you're almost, as you do this work and go on this path, you're sort of living more consciously. So how is this work, I'm sort of describing how the work has changed in you in some respects, but I want you to answer that. How is this work changing you in a sense?
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I've been trying to be a conscious person for 20 years or so, but I feel like it has accelerated that much more, getting to come and ask questions and, like asking like, why is my stepdaughter hating me so much? What can I do? and finding out things like, well, here's a past life thing where you two, they got a story about it and it helped me bring more compassion. And they gave some practical advice about like, stop chasing her, just let her come to you when she wants to. Otherwise, if you chase her when she's not, to try to connect when she's not interested, she's just going to keep rejecting you. And that sets up that dynamic. So it changed me because I keep on learning new things all the time and feeling the portal work that I mentioned. I've been doing this portal work too, to bring through fifth dimensional energy to the planet. And I see these trees. I'm looking at one out my window. I just see nature coming to life more, like, wow, I feel nature loving me back, life loving me back. I feel like I let go of the small stuff much easier than I used to. Not always, but
yes, that's maybe coming more from love with decisions. I mean, it's not something I'm always doing, right? But with the work that you're doing, as you know, I can imagine that's quite life changing in a lot of respects. And there's
some tough moments with it too. I mean, our crap all gets kicked up, and it's like, okay, show me the 10 things that I've got to deal with around this.
Absolutely,
like, help me clear this. And I have friends who help.
That's right. You are still having this human experience, and there's no escaping that, right? Absolutely. And all you can do is do your best, and there is no judgment. I think we judge ourselves way too much sometimes. In the situations that you just described there, I'm sure they will become easier as well. But having that connection, I'm sure it does help to see things from a different perspective as well. Because
It did.
you know,
Not to say it like changed anything necessarily, but it changed the way that I saw it.
yeah. And then I'm sure there's you know, as a family you've come together, and as you've explained, and lots of dynamics there, which is always interesting. I know what that's like as well, and it's deeper things going on sometimes. That there's reasons why people and groups come together. As I'm sure it's come through for you with clients when they've had similar issues. Yeah. So it's all beautiful. It's all just part of life, and it's all too short sometimes, isn't it? So we've got to make the most of it, right?
Oh, so true. So true. But it does feel like I do fervently
I just keep
believe
hearing
that
saying, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass, and like it's short, and like there's more to come.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
you know,
look at people who have really difficult situations, right?
Yeah.
And it makes us more grateful. I mean, you know, families that have lost loved ones in shootings, in murders. You know, these are extremes, but these do happen.
They do happen.
And that level of forgiveness that, you know, you've got to give someone who has done that to someone that you love.
That is masterful practices. I mean, that's practicing again and again and again until you get to that mastery level, because that's one of the hardest things to do.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm just saying, you know, that there are other, and I'm sure you'll come across clients like this in your journey that have gone through horrific stuff. But there's always that. Yeah. You're only going to be ready to hear the message when you're ready, and it doesn't mean it's true. It only can be true for you, but it makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it? It does make a lot of sense. So, just moving on with your work here as well. You've got a book coming out in August. Well, you're contributing to the book.
Yes.
So that's just tell us a little bit about that. Very briefly.
That is that book, Akasha, which Lisa Barnett, my Akashic teacher, is the headlining author on that. It's through sacredstories.com, and it's in the Common Sentience series. It shares that story. There's a lot more to it, but of how the record keepers helped me to find peace with my passing of my brother and my mom, which was, I'm smiling about it now, but I cried daily for months.
Of course. Look, that's just the natural part, isn't it, of that process, and you know, it will always be ongoing, but I feel that when someone does cross, it's not the end of the relationship, it's a relationship on your own terms then with them, do you know what I mean? It is not the end.
I absolutely do. Like
you will see them again. I truly do feel that there is something beyond this understanding. Maybe no book has actually ever got it quite right at all. It's very possible that, you know, most books just touch on the minutest surface level. It's surface level. It's like a grain of sand on a beach, on an infinite beach. That's all we know.
Yeah. Well, these brains, you know, there's like there's sometimes things will come true. I'm like, hang on, I'm really this is so far out of anything that I've ever.
Right. Well, if we chose this life, then our understanding of the nature of reality is maybe not what we. Well, look at people who do psychedelics in a sense, ayahuasca or other mushrooms even, right? And the connections that they get in those moments, the healing process that takes people through, because it's the only way that they're going to go through whatever issues that they've got at that moment that's going to work for them probably, even if it is just out of a curiosity. I'm sure it is. So yes, there's ways to tap into it, but you know, even the near-death experiences, even if like the majority of them weren't quite right, there's a good portion of similarity between a lot of them.
There is, and you know, sometimes there's religious overlay, or there's, you know, just different beliefs that people have that they may attribute to that, or maybe that is what it is, or you know, I'm open to all the possibilities.
Well, let me ask you as well, how has your family accepted the work that you're doing as well? And has that been a journey of learning to not care what people think and just go along your path?
It's really just my dad and I now, as far as my nuclear family. And he's just come along. He's always been, besides the early years where he was kind of a little different, just more judgmental. He's just like my biggest champion and just thinks whatever I do is cool. So that's really, really nice. He's not necessarily into it, but he's open to it. Which is same with my husband, and I do have friends who are much more,
So you've got that support group there. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. But again, going down that sense of a path of whatever anyone thinks, this is my passion right now. This is what I want to do. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's important.
Actually, I will speak to something that's a little more delicate. My brother's two kids, they live about an hour from here, and their mom and stepdad are very, 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 I don't know if you'd say fundamentalist Christian, but they're very, very Christian. And so I have had to be, and I respect that works for them, and that's what they believe. And I wish they could kind of believe that what I believed was cool for me too, but I just don't go there. And I used to, when my nieces were little, I'd say, lead them on little journeys, or I'd say, let's go meet our angels, or, and now I have to just say Jesus, or, and so I can't just totally be myself with everybody, but, I try to find the areas that connect. And
yeah, well, it's a balance, isn't it? I mean, you're here and it's a balance. And I think that's what you can do. And lots of other people are going through the same thing, so you're not on your own.
No, certainly not.
And maybe it wouldn't be so much fun if they did think all the same way. Have you ever thought about that?
I have.
Would that really test you the way you need to be tested for your own understanding of what your heart's in?
Yeah, I have had a lot of fears about being judged. I've put Facebook ads out there where people come to say, "Oh, you're one of those. You're wrong," and you're like, "Ooh, that's intense." So
come and do my show.
What have your experiences have been with that?
No, just in the comments, but you just get past that.
Yeah. That's I'm actively working through, in that right now of saying like, I'm okay. They're not going to kill me.
I think there has to be a balance there. I think it's good to question yourself. I think it's good not to go in blindly or cultly or anythingly, right? Just have that balance for yourself, that to keep a sound mind. And
of course.
I'm always what if, but then that's just me.
I always want to stay open to things and say, well, this is the truth as it seems right to me right now.
Yeah, this is one way that's helping the clients that are coming to you. Yeah, it is not the only way.
Yeah. And I do work with people who don't believe in past lives, and we don't focus on that too.
Right. Now, I know we're almost out of time here, right? Because I'm just blabbering away. But
it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've got a book coming out sometime maybe next year, could be later, but there is a book that you're working on, Untitled, we'll say for now. Just very quickly, because that book is really kind of in alignment with what's going on in the world right now when you look at the Ukraine and other instabilities within the world as well, and within ourselves.
Well, I hope so. It really, we touched just a little bit on it today with finding these 7 levels of connection. And there's there are a lot of exercises in it where you could, for example, you work with seeing like, what are my first chakra connections with this person that I work with, or there's ways to tune into it to see where the blocks are, how you can move through them, you can move through limiting beliefs. And love is just one of those things that heals us, and they really want to teach through this book how we can love on a bigger, brighter level and be happier in love.
Subject, isn't it? It's love. It always comes down to that, doesn't it? Love.
It does. And it helps us to look at terrible things happening, like in the Ukraine. If we can come from this loving perspective, it helps, because otherwise we can just get buried in all of the emotion of it.
It's very sad what's going on over there. It's tragic.
It is.
It's genocide. It's so many things, but some things have to work themselves out, don't they? In these bigger scales. That there's things that karmically on even country patterns, do you know what I mean? Let alone individual levels that are being worked out. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. And things that people choose, they contract to go in and be part of that. You know, it's easy to say from my safe little office right here, but, you know, I do believe that for myself when I'm going through crappy things too. Like, I agreed to this. I may not remember why right now, but just feeling like you have a choice in that to see, you know, what good could possibly come from it. It helps because then it's not like life happening to you.
Well, I guess for you as well, just to see the vastness of the soul, of people's souls, and even in the records, it's you know, it's vast, isn't it? And they understand. It's just so understandable just how big we are. We feel so small sometimes, but actually, there's a vastness about us that we can't even understand or perceive. Yeah,
that's exciting.
So, if you wanted to do a mocked-up session with me, you're more than welcome to, just to show the audience how this works. I know we're like 1 hour, 20 minutes in here, which I did not expect to get to, but it would have to be a very brief reading just so that people get an understanding. So if you want to talk the audience through what the process is, and I shall just be quiet, you can tell me what I need to do as well.
Well, while I was waiting to get on with you, you gave me permission to open your records and sort of this general idea that you weren't ready for anything anytime soon. And, let's just see how this goes. You can always cut this out if you want to.
No, there'll be no chopping. They love the audience loves this part. Just let's get all the best stuff out.
Well, we'll see if this resonates for you, Kevin. They showed me something that says that it's still present, that feels kind of like a knife to the heart. That it's not a stabbing in the back kind of betrayal, but very much something that was done to your face. That there's still a bit of a wound there. I'll go into more. Sorry, I wrote notes because I was.
That would be my ex-wife for anyone that's wondering. I'll just say.
Okay. That you were a little bit blinded by some of her other attributes that were good. And you thought you shared a bigger vision together, that you would
beautiful.
Support each other.
I'm not going to say she wasn't.
Obviously, you're together for some reasons that were.
But I didn't just marry her for her looks. I'm just saying that, but obviously not. But I mean,
that was okay. That kind of came through. I don't want to say it.
But... Well, okay, if that's what came through. I guess that really dissolved so quickly when all the craziness started.
Yeah. And what I was hearing that she, your soul mission is to be, part of it is to do this international spiritual news network. You also want to be a big personality. You want to be out there. You want to be touching the world in so many different ways. And she was in love with the money part of that and the success and outward part, but not so much with the soul vision.
Maybe the potential of it.
Yeah. So they are saying that you built a belief around that you have to have a certain amount of outward success before you'll be ready to meet someone. And how does that, and that may be just right for you, but they do have something that they'd like to tell you about that. That there is sorry, I'm reading my writing here. There is a vibrational match. Like if you were to be interested in working with someone to build the spiritual news network with you, there is a vibrational match. There is a potential soul partner, and they described her. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, yes. Let's get the details.
Someone very spunky. She's pretty tall. She has, I know you said blonde hair would be great. I saw reddish dark brown hair. So sorry about that. Dark glasses, very tense and strong. Also very caring, like extremely passionate about what you're doing, about the subject matter, about reporting, about sharing news that's positive and uplifting. very much your equal and an equal interest. This soul contract, that you have a potential soul contract to do this work together of the International Spiritual News Network. Right now they're saying she's doing something in broadcasting. I don't know if she's a writer or she's behind the camera, because she could do both. And she's hungering for something more, something deeper. I don't know if she knows of you yet. So then I was asking if Kevin would like to know, tell us about how they meet up at each chakra level. Would you like to? Oh, she's a sharp dresser and very polished. She's very beautiful. You would approve. So first chakra level, that they were saying that your financial goals, that you're able to really move them towards a vision rather than, it being about things looking a certain way or success looking a certain ways, that the vision is very important to both of you of making this happen together. Sexually, a lot of intensity, pre-smoking. Everybody wants that. Also very creative, a lot of really bouncing things off and just really wonderful creative energy between the two of you. Third chakra, very strong. You both are able to really lift each other up. However, she's pretty fiery. You can be pretty fiery. There can be a little bit of argument that can happen.
Well, there's
sometimes.
two redheads together. Yeah.
Right. Red or dark brown. I don't know if she dyes her hair sometimes. Okay, I don't know. But you can come to a solution because you do come back to love. You do come back to this shared vision together. Heart. They said that there is a real love for life in her, intense amount of passion for her work that you guys really share. You may have to remind each other occasionally to just love life and to just kick back and drink a glass of wine or take a walk or something, because you could really live your work together, the two of you. Fifth chakra, they said that it's really easy to I'm sorry, I can't read my writing. Really easy to talk to each other. You really get each other. It's you almost like you read each other's mind. Sixth chakra, there's a singular mind, like you just this bigger intention, soul intention of bringing the Spiritual News Network, International Spiritual News Network together, makes your minds just click together so well. And spiritually, they said she's curious and open, both of you, in different ways, but you're able to open each other up to all these other experiences. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just stuck on the other stuff. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Stuck on the smoking.
Yeah. Mayor was going all over the place. Yeah. No, that's. I don't. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've not met her yet, and I suppose our paths have got. Maybe I have. I don't even know. Who knows?
Keep your eyes open. You will feel something. You will definitely feel something.
Yeah, and I think you've got to keep your heart open as well, because sometimes it can be closed off. Yeah. And if you want to, we can do this now. We can do it, if you have a couple minutes after we're done with the interview, to help work on that belief that they spoke of, that feel like I can't until, I can't meet this person until I have XYZ done. We could work with that if you'd like to. I've just got to stop meeting the wrong women. Yeah. Well, I'm not even interested in dating right now. Am I? I'm open. I'm open to but yeah, I'm open. Yeah. I'm just kind of like, I'm not really into that, the dating apps and stuff like that. I just think I've used them, and I don't know, it's just not, my situation with going through immigration, I guess it's just difficult. But I use an excuse there, but interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so then in that session, then you would then
We would work on that limiting belief if you wanted to. We would write in a new belief in your belief book in your Akashic records, kind of, and into your heart that would help you to be more open to it. Because right now you're like, no, that's maybe. That if that makes sense, it's like you're like, no, I really need to get these things done first. And sometimes that's very true, but your record keepers are like, yeah, but things would actually move forward so much better if you were to find this person and be open to her.
Do you think situations play a role sometimes in our life? Because there has to be a timing, isn't there? I guess, but then, yeah, okay, interesting.
Keep your eyes open.
Oh, my eyes are open. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So, well, how long would a session normally last for with someone? It would
for an hour.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for pre-doing that. Yes, we did speak about that off air, and I appreciate you having already done it. We hadn't even talked for me to ask you had you done it, because obviously I've just been doing some other interviews today, so it's just been difficult to reach me a little bit. So, excellent. That is very interesting. I'm going to say that. Very, very interesting. I didn't tell you nothing about my past relationship when we spoke.
And I promised I didn't Google you.
Oh, I know you did.
I don't know if I could have found anything out or not.
No. I know you did. I know. That is. Okay. Well, your website, one last time, please.
www.light, L-I-G-H-T, filled, F-I-L-L-E-D, life, L-I-F-E.com.
Do you have any final message to give to the audience?
Oh, gosh. Well, if any of the things that we talked about today appealing to you, I would love to work with you in person. I love what I do, and I love people, and it would just be an honor.
Excellent. And that can be, when you say in person, that's obviously like this in a sense.
Oh, on Zoom. Yeah.
Which is basically in person, as you say.
Which basically in person. I feel like I've met you, Kevin.
Yeah, right. Well, you have. You have.
Yeah.
Well, listen, very interesting to interview you. There was one thing I wanted to ask you. I just forgot to ask this. With the way that you do the channeling, do you think that you could use that in any other way, or do you think it's set for the way that you're doing it?
Oh, I asked about that the other day. Actually, I asked my record keepers, and they said, because I'm someone who has a lot of ideas, and you know what it's like. You can have the idea and it's really exciting, but it takes a heck of a lot of work to make that idea into something. They were like, get this book out there and then we'll talk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Erika, I just want to thank you for being so honest, for sharing, and much love to you and all your family. And just thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Much love to you. And I appreciate this so much.